What's up everyone? Microsoft has finally released 3 regular expression functions, and I'm going to show how you can use each of them in this video. If you didn't know, regular expression is an engine used to match patterns against a string or text of characters. If the pattern matches, then we would either extract the substring or portion of the text, replace the portion of the text with something else, or see if that portion of the text exists. For the first 4 worksheets, I'm going to show the different ways you can use REGEXEXTRACT, then REGEXREPLACE, and finally the REGEXTEST functions. To start off, we have this table in the email addresses worksheet. The first column contains full sentences on how to reach a company or business by email. Our goal is to extract the email addresses from each row and output them in column B. To start off, we're going to go to cell B2 and start typing out equal to regex. We have these 3 functions here. The main one we're going to focus on is REGEXEXTRACT, which extracts the substring of text based on the provided pattern. If I do tab, we get these 4 arguments here. The first 2, text and pattern, are mandatory, while the last 2, return mode and case sensitivity, are optional. For text, I'm going to reference cell A2. For the pattern argument, we want to find out what pattern each email address follows. Based on the pattern, it looks like the email address starts with any letters from A to Z, followed by the @ symbol, then followed by any letters from A to Z again, followed by a period, and followed by any letters appearing 2 or more times. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to paste the regular expression that I made beforehand that identifies this pattern in quotes, and this regular expression pretty much satisfies all the conditions for most of these email addresses, except for one which we'll go over pretty soon. Now, another way of reading the patterns, if you're not familiar with reading regular expression patterns, you can also ask an AI tool like ChatGPT to create it for you. You can supply it with the text or like a list of examples and then ask it to create the regular expression pattern based on whatever tool you're using, like Excel, Python, or anything like that. Now, at this point, I'm going to close the function out and press enter, and we get back the email address, which matches the partial text here. If I drag this function down to get the next email address, info@mywebsite.net, I can do Control D, and we get the correct email address this time. But if I try to drag the function down again, we did get the first email address, help@servers.io, but there's another email address, feedback@portal.org, which doesn't appear in the output. By default, the function is returning the first match out of multiple matches. So even if my pattern matched for both email addresses, we're only getting back the first one, which is help@servers.io. If we want to include the second email address or all matches, we can modify the function to include the third argument, which is return mode. I'm going to do comma, and in the return mode argument, we have 3 options. The number 0 for the first match only, which is the default value, the number 1 for all matches, or the number 2 for capture groups or first match, which I'll go over more later. If we want to get back all matches, I'm going to type out 1 and press enter, and we get back an array output where the first match is help@servers.io and the second match is feedback@portal.org. Now this is an array, so if you wanted to combine them into like a single cell, you can do a text join function, wrap this around a text join. The delimiter, we can choose anything we want. I'm going to do and, comma, ignore empty can be true, comma, and the text one will be the regex function. Close this out, press enter, and let me just fix this by including the space in both end here. Press enter again, and we get a single cell output this time where the 2 email addresses are separated by and. So let's go back to the original function. You'll notice that it's printing based on a column by column output. There might be some situations where the function is printing on a row by row basis. So if that happens, you can always use the transpose function to switch them around. If I do transpose of the entire function, close this out, press enter, and we get the output this time on a row by row basis. Let's drag the function 1 row down. We get the output connect@business, but we're missing the .com this time. Well, that's because in our pattern in the REGEXEXTRACT function, we're stating that after the period, we wanted to follow any characters from A to Z, lowercase, that appears 2 or more times. And in this case, the .com or the .com are all uppercase. Well, there are a couple of ways you can fix this. Either you can adjust the pattern to also include uppercase letters, like A to Z here, and you get the .com back. But another way to fix this is by entering the fourth argument, which is case sensitivity. So if I go back to the formula bar, do comma, we get the optional case sensitivity argument. We can enter 0, which is case sensitive match, and that's the default value, or we can enter 1 for being case insensitive, so it doesn't care about uppercase or lowercase values. If I enter in 1, press enter, and we get back the output this time that includes the .com. Let's drag the function down to the very last row this time. We get the correct email address in cell B6, but this time in cell B7 we get an NA error. Well, that's because our regex pattern doesn't have any matches for this text here, since it does no @ symbol appearing or period appearing between the characters. So as a result, if there's no match, or like if there's no pattern found, then we get an NA error back. And if you don't want to see an NA error, then what you can do is that you can wrap this function around an if NA function, and we get the value if there's no NA errors. Otherwise, if there was one, then we could just say no match found, or anything else you'd want. Press enter, and we get back the no match found value this time. What if we had a list of phone numbers instead of email addresses this time? Well, that's very easy to do with the REGEXEXTRACT function, as long as the phone numbers follow a certain pattern. If we look at the numbers in column A, we can see that there are two sets of phone numbers. The first set starts with an open parentheses, followed by 3-digit numbers, then a close parentheses, followed by a space, then 3 numbers, followed by a dash, and finally 4-digit numbers. The second set of phone numbers start with a plus sign, followed by 1 or more numbers, then a dash, followed by 1 or more numbers, then a dash again, then 3 or more numbers, then a final dash, and then exactly 4 numbers. In cell B2, I'm going to type out equal to REGEXEXTRACT. The text will be cell A2, comma. The pattern will be this thing I copied already, which I'll just paste in quotes, comma. And the return mode will be 1, since we want to get back all matches from each cell. And enter. And we get back an array output of these two phone numbers. Now, you might be wondering how this pattern works. Well, the main thing to understand is how the pipe operator here works. Basically, I'm telling the regular expression to find all phone numbers that start with the parentheses and satisfies these conditions here, or, which is what the pipe operator means, or the phone numbers that starts with a plus sign and satisfies these conditions as well. So we can drag this function down to the last row, and we get back a list of all the phone numbers from each cell this time. There might be a scenario where we're given a date, and our main job is to get the month, day, and year from it. In column A, we have one date for each cell, and if we want to get each component of the dates, then in cell C2, we can type out equal to REGEXEXTRACT. The text will be cell A2, comma. The pattern I'll just paste here, comma. And for the return mode, we're going to do 0, which is the default value, since we only have one date for each cell. Enter. And we get back this date here. But this isn't what we want though. The neat thing with regular expression is that we can divide our matches into groups. You can think of these groups as portion of text that we want to extract from our matches. Our first match is 12-15-2024. So if we wanted to divide this into groups, then we would have 3 groups. The first group being 12, then 15, and the last and third group being 2024, ignoring all the forward slashes. To include the grouping, we need to first modify the pattern. In the pattern here, I have \d, curly braces, 2, and then another curly brace to close it out, then /. This basically means to find any 2 numbers. I can enclose this in a parentheses as the first group, and next, ignoring the / here, we have \d, curly brace 2, curly brace, same thing as before. Close this in a parentheses as our second group, and finally, the third group will be \d, curly brace 4, curly brace, which is telling the pattern to find any 4-digit numbers. Close this in a parentheses, and when we close these in a parentheses, then we're telling it to group the data. And finally, the last thing you need to do is change the return mode from 0 to 2, which is the capture groups of first matches. If I enter 2 and press enter, we get an array output of 12 as the month, then the second column is 15 as the day, and third column is 2024 as the year. And we can just drag this function down, and we get all the extracted components from each date this time. In this example, we have a list of text in column A that references a website, and our goal is to get the URL link for each cell in column A and put them in column B. In cell B2, I'll type out equals to REGEXEXTRACT. Text will be cell A2, comma, and the pattern will be this. Now this is a new pattern to others we've seen before. Basically, I'm telling the regex engine to find anything that starts with HTTP and then go to the end of the line. And you want to stop at a point where you would see .com or .site or .net or .org. So if I close this out and press enter, we get back the URL link for that cell, and then I can just fill this down. Other than REGEXEXTRACT, we also have access to the REGEXREPLACE function. This function can replace anything you match with something else. In column A, I have a list of invoice numbers and their statuses. If we wanted to replace all instance of hashtag that is preceded by the word invoice with number instead, then we can do something like this. In cell B2, I'll type out equals to regex replace tab, and the text will be cell A2. The pattern, we want to search for a specific keyword, which will be invoice. So anything that starts with invoice, then space, and then starting with hashtag, closes out, comma, and then we want to replace it with something else like number. So in this case, I want to replace it with invoice, and then the actual number, word, space, and close this out, press enter, and we get back every instance of invoice hashtag 12345, invoice hashtag 23, being replaced with invoice number 12345, invoice number 23, and invoice number 45345. Now by default, REGEXREPLACE replaces all instances of the match occurring. If we want to replace a specific match, then we have to specify that in the third argument. I'm going to go to the formula bar, type out comma, and we want to specify number in the occurrence argument here. If we specify the number 1, then that means it's going to replace the first instance of the match appearing instead. If we do number 2, then it'll look for the second match then. So if I enter 1 here and press enter, we get back the invoice, then the number, and for the second match, we have invoice and then the hashtag symbol. Same with the third match. If I do number 2 instead, we have invoice hashtag 12345, but in the second match, we have the actual number word appearing. Now, if I wanted to do the last match, I can do the number 3 since there's only 3 matches, or I can do -1 instead, which automatically goes through the last match. And we see here, we have invoice, then the word number, 45345, while the other two didn't get replaced. By default, REGEXREPLACE replaces all matches, so you can leave it alone, or you can enter the value for 0 instead, which is going to go through all matches. So I'll just drag this function down, and you'll notice that some text didn't get replaced, which I'll just color right now. I'll color this one as orange, since this still has the invoice hashtag, then this one, and finally this one. Well, that's because in our pattern we specified that the invoice has to be capital I. We didn't really specify if it should be case sensitive or case insensitive, or fix the pattern. So what we can do, or one way to fix this, is that we can use the fourth optional argument, case sensitivity. Just like before, 0 will be case sensitive, or 1 will be case insensitive. So I'll enter in 1, and then just drag this down, and we get the fixed cells this time. The last regex function to go over is REGEXTEST. This function checks to see if a match in a text exists based on the pattern we give it. If a match does exist, then we would get back a boolean value of true. Otherwise, we would get back false. In column A, I have a list of product codes. We want to make sure that the product codes always follow the same format, where it should start with 3 capital letters, followed by a dash, then 3 numbers. We're going to check to see if each product code is valid in column B with the REGEXTEST function. In cell B2, I'll type out equals to REGEXTEST. The text will be cell A2, comma, and the pattern will be this. And what the pattern is stating is to find any capital letters from A to Z that appears exactly 3 times, followed by a dash, then followed by any numbers that appears exactly 3 times. And I'm going to close this out and press enter, and we get back a true here. And if I fill this down, we get back true for this value. For this product code is true as well. This product code is false because it starts with 3 numbers instead of 3 capital letters. And this is false because it doesn't have a dash, and the last character is a capital letter C. Now we can do other things with RegExTest, like combining it with other functions. So instead of just returning true or false, we can have it return something like invalid or valid instead. And if we want to do that, then what we can do is wrap this around an if function. The logical test will be this RegExTest function equals to true. And if it is true, then we want to return product code valid. Otherwise, if it's false, then return product code invalid. And close this out, enter. If we drag this down, we get back a list of outputs that are valid or invalid instead of just true and false. I also want to show you guys this website called regex101.com. I use this website all the time in addition to ChatGPT to help make my regex patterns and see if there are anything wrong with them. The way this works is that you would enter the text or the test string in this box. So let's say, for example, I have the text, this invoice 123 is billed for $100, and you would supply the pattern for the text in this box here where it says insert your regular expression here. And if we want to extract something like the invoice number and the dollar amount or find matches for them, we can do invoice or type out invoice space, or you can also do \s for space, then \d, and then the plus sign to indicate the number appears 1 or more times in a sequence. Then you want to get the dollar amount, right? So what you can also do is that you can do the pipe operator and then do $$ to indicate a literal $, then \d again. That appears 1 or more times, so you can put in plus sign, then \period for literal period, then \d again, curly brace 2, close curly brace to indicate the number appears exactly 2 times after the decimal place. Now there's another way to get both matches, but this is one way at least. And let's say that you want to extract the actual number specifically from the text. What you can do is that you can capture this in a group. So cover the \d plus in a parentheses, and you get this 123 highlighted in green, which indicates group 1. Now you can do other things on the website as well, like choosing the different flavor of the programming language, like PCRE, ECMAScript, or Python, which is the most popular one. You can also look at the matches and the groups in this section here, and even select them to highlight the match in this body of text. Or you can go to the quick reference box as well to get helpful hints and guides on what these patterns do. So this website is super useful if you ever want to practice your regex skills. I hope you all found this video to be helpful on the different ways you can use the regex functions. If you did, then please like and comment down below what else you'd want to see. And if you haven't already, subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn to get notified of when I upload the next video. Until then, I'll see you guys again next time.